My name is Richard, and at 28 years old, I never thought I'd be cutting ties with my own family. Growing up in our pristine Connecticut suburb, appearances meant everything. When Dad left, Mom became obsessed with social status, and my sister Amanda transformed into the golden child while I became invisible. Years of being the family doormat culminated when Amanda smirked and uttered those words that finally broke me. "Clean my shoes, slave." Before I dive into how my sister's cruel words changed our lives forever, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you've ever dealt with toxic family members. Amanda and I weren't always at odds. In my earliest memories, we were actually close. I remember summer afternoons when we'd build elaborate forts in the backyard of our suburban Connecticut home, pretending we were exploring uncharted territories. Amanda, being 3 years older, would always take the lead, but she made me feel included, important even. She would defend me against neighborhood bullies and help me with homework. Those were simpler times. Everything changed when Dad left. I was 8, Amanda was 11. The divorce wasn't particularly messy in the legal sense, but emotionally, it devastated our family structure. Dad moved to California for a job opportunity, promising to stay involved in our lives. Those promises gradually faded into occasional phone calls and birthday cards with gift cards tucked inside. Mom changed almost overnight. The warm, nurturing woman who used to bake cookies for school functions transformed into someone obsessed with maintaining appearances. Our comfortable upper-middle-class lifestyle wasn't enough anymore. She joined every social committee in town, renovated our home beyond our means, and started dressing exclusively in designer clothes she could barely afford. "We have to show everyone that we're doing just fine," she'd say. While reviewing credit card statements at the kitchen table, her forehead creased with worry lines she'd later try to erase with expensive creams. Our financial situation was comfortable, but not nearly as affluent as Mom pretended. Dad's child support and alimony, combined with Mom's part-time job at a high-end boutique, kept us afloat. But the facade of wealth required constant maintenance that stretched our resources thin. As this transformation took hold, I watched Amanda adapt and thrive under the new family dynamic. She quickly learned that embracing Mom's value system earned her favor. Amanda became obsessed with the right clothes, the right friends, the right activities that would maintain our family's social standing. Mom rewarded this behavior with attention, affection, and resources, while I remained in the background. My attempts to gain approval took a different path. I threw myself into academics and working hard, thinking that success would make Mom proud. I maintained straight A's, joined academic clubs, and even started tutoring younger kids for some extra money when I was 14. But these achievements were acknowledged with only passing interest. "That's nice, Richard," Mom would say, without looking up from helping Amanda prepare for a social event. "But remember that connections matter more than grades in the real world." Amanda's sense of entitlement grew with Mom's encouragement. She began borrowing my things without asking: my CDs, my video games, even money from my wallet. When confronted, she'd act offended that I would even question her. "We're family," she'd say with a dismissive wave. "What's yours is mine." Even more frustrating were the times she would take credit for my achievements. When I spent weeks building a model of the solar system for the school science fair and won first place, Amanda mentioned to Mom's friends at a dinner party that she had helped Richard so much with his project. Mom beamed at Amanda while I sat silently, knowing any contradiction would only label me as petty. As high school progressed, my role in the family solidified into the problem solver and emotional support person. When Amanda got into trouble for skipping classes to go shopping with friends, I was the one who covered for her. When Mom had too much wine at neighborhood gatherings, I made sure we got home safely. When bills needed sorting or the house needed maintenance, those tasks fell to me while Amanda and Mom focused on maintaining their social calendar. The contrast between our public and private lives grew starker. To the community, we were the admirable single-mother household that had weathered divorce with grace. Amanda was the charming, popular daughter with leadership potential, and I was the quiet, responsible son who never caused trouble. Behind closed doors, I was becoming increasingly aware of the dysfunction. The constant walking on eggshells around Mom's mood swings, the exhaustion of managing household responsibilities while trying to build my own future, and the growing resentment toward Amanda's preferential treatment were taking their toll. By the time I was preparing for college, I felt like a stranger in my own home. I had learned to keep my true thoughts and feelings to myself, knowing they wouldn't be welcomed if they disrupted the narrative Mom had created for our family. My real self existed only outside our home with a few close friends who knew the truth about our family dynamic. I was 17 when I realized that the only way forward was to create distance between myself and the toxic environment that our home had become. College applications became my secret escape plan, a way to rebuild my life on my own terms, away from the suffocating expectations and the constant feeling of being less valued than my sister. When college acceptance letters started arriving during my senior year of high school, I made a decision that bewildered both Mom and Amanda. Despite having the grades and test scores for more prestigious schools, I chose to attend State University on a partial academic scholarship. It was a solid school with an excellent computer science program, but it certainly didn't have the elite status that would have impressed Mom's social circle. "You're throwing away your potential," Mom said when I announced my choice. We were sitting at the dining room table, my acceptance letters spread out before us. "Fairfield University accepted you. That's where the Anderson son goes. Think of the connections you could make." Amanda, who was home from her freshman year at Bryn Mawr College, didn't even try to hide her disdain. "State University. Isn't that where people go when they can't get in anywhere better?" I explained my practical reasons. The scholarship reduced the financial burden, the program was well regarded in the tech industry, and the campus felt right during my visit. What I didn't say was that being 3 hours away from home while paying less for my education meant I could work toward complete financial independence. Mom eventually put on a brave face about my choice, telling her friends that I had received multiple offers, but chose State for their specialized program. Amanda was less diplomatic, referring to my university as Richard's budget school whenever the topic arose. While Amanda's education was fully funded by Mom, who took out additional loans to cover the prestigious private university, I worked 20 hours a week at the campus IT help desk and picked up freelance web development projects to cover my living expenses. The contrast in our college experiences couldn't have been more stark. Amanda's social media accounts showcased an endless stream of sorority events, weekend getaways with friends, and spring break trips to tropical locations. Her image was carefully curated, presenting the perfect college experience that Mom could proudly share with her social circle. Meanwhile, I was balancing classes, work, and building genuine friendships with people who valued me for who I was, not for what family I came from or what I could do for them. For the first time in my life, I felt seen and appreciated. My roommate Jordan and I bonded over late-night coding sessions and shared interest in indie films. I started dating Rachel, a journalism major, who saw through superficial pretenses and valued authenticity. The first holiday break from college became the setting for my first major confrontation with Amanda and Mom. I returned home for Thanksgiving, carrying a sense of newfound independence and self-worth that I hadn't possessed before. The tension began when Amanda asked me to help her with a presentation for her marketing class. Not a simple proofread or feedback session, she wanted me to essentially create the entire digital presentation while she focused on shopping for an upcoming sorority formal. "I just don't have time, Richard. And you're so good with all the computer stuff," she said, tossing her project requirements onto my bed where I was catching up on reading. "It needs to be done by Sunday night." For the first time, I simply said no. Amanda stared at me as if I'd suddenly started speaking a foreign language. "What do you mean? No." "I mean no, I won't do your project for you. I have my own finals to prepare for, and I'm meeting some high school friends tomorrow." I kept my tone even not confrontational, just matter of fact. Amanda's face flushed with anger. "Are you serious right now? It would take you like 2 hours max. Then you should have plenty of time to do it yourself," I replied, turning back to my book. What followed was a door-slamming exit and a direct appeal to Mom, who came to my room later that evening with a concerned expression. "Richard, why won't you help your sister? She's under so much pressure at school, and you know how important her GPA is for her internship applications." I took a deep breath before responding. "Mom, I have my own pressures and responsibilities. I work while taking a full course load. Amanda needs to do her own schoolwork." Mom's expression hardened. "That's very selfish of you. Family helps family. Your sister would help you if you asked." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me, considering Amanda had never once offered to help me with anything substantial, but I knew better than to point this out. Instead, I said I'm happy to review her work or give her feedback, but I won't do the assignment for her. The remainder of the break was filled with cold shoulders from Amanda and disappointed sighs from Mom. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife during Thanksgiving dinner, where Mom's friends commented on how wonderfully Amanda is doing at Bryn Mawr while my academic achievements went unmentioned. I returned to campus with a mixture of guilt and resolution. The guilt was an old familiar feeling programmed into me through years of family dynamics. The resolution was newer, a growing certainty that maintaining my self-respect was not selfish but necessary. That first stand against the established family roles was small but significant. When I shared what happened with Rachel, she squeezed my hand and said, "It's hard to change family patterns, but you did the right thing." Her validation helped solidify my resolve to continue setting boundaries, even if it made holidays uncomfortable. As sophomore year progressed into junior year, these boundaries became more defined. I visited home less frequently, using work commitments as legitimate excuses. Phone calls with Mom became briefer with me, steering conversations away from Amanda's needs or problems. I was gradually stepping out of the role I'd been assigned in our family drama, and while it felt liberating, I knew there would eventually be pushback. After graduation, I leveraged my internship experience and solid grades to land a promising position with a growing tech company in Austin, Texas. The job offered a competitive salary growth potential, and most importantly, 1,200 miles between me and Connecticut. While part of me felt guilty about moving so far away, the larger part recognized the opportunity for what it was: a chance to define myself outside the shadow of my family dynamics. I found an apartment in a lively neighborhood, bought sensible furniture, and began building a life that felt authentically mine. My work colleagues became friends, and I joined a local rock climbing gym where I met more like-minded people who enjoyed outdoor activities. For the first time, I felt like I was living rather than just surviving. Meanwhile, Amanda graduated from Bryn Mawr with a communications degree and grand expectations of immediately landing a prestigious position in public relations or marketing. Reality had different plans. Despite Mom's connections and Amanda's internship at a local lifestyle magazine, the full-time job offers weren't flowing in as expected. These companies don't recognize talent when they see it. Amanda complained during one of my occasional phone calls with Mom. "I'm not going to settle for some entry-level assistant position. I'm worth more than that." After 3 months of unsuccessful job hunting, Amanda moved back home with Mom, ostensibly to regroup and strategize. This temporary arrangement stretched from months into a year, as she took on part-time work at high-end retail stores, quitting each job when it became too demanding or beneath her qualifications. During this time, Mom began not so subtly suggesting that I should help Amanda financially or use my computer contacts to find her a job. "Your sister is really struggling, Richard. Couldn't you talk to your company about positions in marketing?" These requests put me in an uncomfortable position. I knew Amanda wasn't qualified for positions at my tech company, and I wasn't about to risk my professional reputation by recommending someone with her work history. As for financial help, my salary was good, but not extravagant, especially considering Austin's rising cost of living and the student loans I was responsibly paying off. My visits home became increasingly stressful. What should have been relaxing holidays turned into tense situations where Amanda's entitlement reached new heights. She expected me to chauffeur her around town when her car was low on gas, to fix everyone's technical problems, and to listen to endless complaints about how unfair life was treating her. During one Christmas visit, Amanda borrowed my rental car without asking, returning it with an empty gas tank and a parking ticket tucked into the visor. When I confronted her, she shrugged it off. "You can afford it. It's not like you have anyone to spend money on besides yourself." Mom consistently enabled these behaviors, making excuses for Amanda, while expecting me to keep the peace by giving in. "Your sister is going through a difficult time right now," she'd say. "Can't you just be understanding?" The pattern continued as Amanda cycled through jobs, apartments she couldn't afford, which Mom would help pay for, and relationships that ended when her partners grew tired of her self-centered behavior. Inevitably, each crisis would result in frantic calls to me for advice, money, or both. When Amanda's car broke down, I was expected to research mechanics remotely and help pay for repairs. When she got into credit card debt from overspending, I received tearful calls about possible bankruptcy. When she fought with roommates who were totally unreasonable about her not paying utilities on time, I was supposed to mediate over the phone. The financial and emotional toll began to affect my own well-being. I found myself dreading calls from home, tensing up whenever Mom or Amanda's names appeared on my phone. My girlfriend at the time, Melissa, noticed the pattern. "You're always stressed after talking to your family," she observed one evening after I got off a particularly difficult call with Mom about Amanda's latest crisis. "It's like they drain all your energy." "Their family," I replied automatically, the programmed response I'd been giving for years. Melissa wasn't buying it. "Family shouldn't make you feel this way. There's a difference between supporting relatives through legitimate hardships and being taken advantage of." Her words resonated with me, though I wasn't ready to fully acknowledge the truth in them. It took another year and several more incidents before I could admit that what I had with Mom and Amanda wasn't a healthy family relationship, but a one-sided dynamic where my needs always came last. The breaking point was approaching, though I didn't know it yet. I had established a good life in Austin, received a promotion at work, and was considering buying a condo. Friends who truly cared about me surrounded me. Yet every interaction with my family left me feeling diminished, as though no achievement or personal growth could change how they saw me, the reliable fixer who existed to solve their problems. As Mom's birthday approached that spring, I booked a flight back to Connecticut, mentally preparing for the usual family stress, while promising myself I would maintain healthy boundaries. I had no idea that this visit would finally force me to make the hardest decision of my life. Mom's birthday fell on a Saturday that year, and I arranged a 3-day weekend trip back to Connecticut. As my flight descended toward Bradley International Airport, I felt the familiar knot forming in my stomach, the tension that always accompanied visits home. I had sent a large flower arrangement to Mom ahead of time and carried a small, elegantly wrapped gift, a silver bracelet she had admired online. The house looked the same from the outside, immaculately maintained despite the financial strain it caused. But something felt different as I walked up the driveway. Maybe it was me who had changed, seeing my childhood home through more mature eyes. Mom greeted me with her usual perfunctory hug. "Richard, finally. I was beginning to think you'd miss your flight. Amanda's friends will be arriving for drinks before dinner, so you might want to freshen up." "No. How was your flight?" Or, "It's good to see you. Just immediate social instructions." I hadn't even known there would be other people joining us on what I thought would be a family celebration. "I thought we were having a quiet dinner for your birthday," I said, setting my bag down in the foyer. "Oh well, Amanda thought it would be nice to have a proper celebration. She's invited some of her friends from the country club. You remember the Wilsons' daughter, Bethany, and Taylor Matthews. They're dying to see you again." I didn't remember either of these people dying to see me the first time, but I nodded and headed upstairs to the guest room. My childhood bedroom had been converted to Mom's home office years ago. Amanda arrived home an hour later. I was in the kitchen helping Mom prepare appetizers when she breezed in, shopping bags dangling from both arms. "Richard's here," Mom announced unnecessarily. Amanda glanced at me as if just noticing my presence. "Oh, hey," she said without enthusiasm. "Could you bring these bags up to my room? I need to start getting ready." No greeting, no hug, not even a proper acknowledgement. Just an immediate request, no demand for service. "Hello to you too, Amanda," I said, continuing to arrange cheese on a platter. "I'm a bit busy helping Mom right now." Amanda gave an exaggerated sigh and carried her own bags upstairs, making as much noise as possible to communicate her displeasure. When she returned downstairs, she was already scrutinizing my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing tonight? It looks like you dressed for a day at the office." I was wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt, perfectly appropriate for a family birthday dinner. "What's wrong with what I'm wearing?" "It's just so, Austin," she said with a smirk. "Mom's friends are going to be here. You could make an effort." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of the first guests. The next hour was a blur of introductions and small talk with Amanda's friends, most of whom I had never met despite her insistence that we had crossed paths at various social events over the years. I noticed how Amanda glowed in the attention, positioning herself as the sophisticated hostess, while Mom looked on approvingly. I was relegated to the role of bartender, refreshing drinks and making sure everyone was comfortable while Amanda held court in the living room. The actual breaking point came after dinner. We had moved back to the living room for coffee and dessert when Amanda kicked off her high heels and stretched her legs dramatically. "These new shoes are killing me," she complained loudly. "They're Louboutins, though, so worth every blister." She turned her gaze directly to me where I sat in a corner armchair. A small, cruel smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Richard," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "be a dear and clean my shoes before you put them away. The soles got a bit dirty in the restaurant parking lot." The room didn't exactly fall silent, but there was a noticeable pause in conversation as several pairs of eyes turned toward me. Amanda's expression was one I recognized from childhood, the look she got when asserting dominance, when reminding me of my place in the family hierarchy. "Clean my shoes, slave," she added with a smirk, clearly playing to her audience, expecting either compliance or embarrassment from me. "They cost more than your monthly rent, so be careful." Time seemed to slow down. In that moment, I saw my entire relationship with Amanda and Mom with perfect clarity. Years of being the family doormat, the reliable one who would take the abuse and still show up, flashed through my mind. I saw the pattern stretching infinitely into the future unless something changed. Without a word, I stood up, walked over, and picked up the red-soled shoes. I maintained eye contact with Amanda as I walked calmly to the kitchen. I could hear her laughing to her friends, probably making some joke at my expense. In the kitchen, I opened the back door and tossed the expensive shoes directly into the large trash can. The metallic clang was surprisingly satisfying. Then I returned to the living room, grabbed my jacket from the coat rack, and picked up my car keys. "Richard, where are you going?" Mom called out, noticing my preparations to leave. "I'm done," I said simply. "What do you mean you're done? The party's not over and you haven't had cake," Mom said, confusion evident in her voice. "I'm not talking about the party. I'm done being treated like this. I'm done being the family servant. Amanda can fish her shoes out of the trash if they're so important to her." Amanda's face transformed from smug satisfaction to shock. "You did what with my shoes?" She jumped up from the couch. "They're in the trash where they belong, just like the way you've been treating me all these years." Mom rushed over, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Richard, stop making a scene. Amanda was just joking around." "No, she wasn't. And you know it." I looked directly at Amanda. "I'm not your slave. I'm not your ATM. I'm not your technical support or your chauffeur or your emotional punching bag. I'm your brother, and I deserve basic respect." "You're overreacting," Amanda sputtered, looking around at her friends who were watching the scene unfold with uncomfortable fascination. "Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm finally reacting appropriately after years of not standing up for myself." I turned to Mom. "I love you, but I can't do this anymore. The constant enabling, the double standards, the expectation that I'll always be there to fix everything while being treated like a second-class family member." "Richard, please." Mom's voice trembled. "Let's not do this now with guests here. I'm sorry about the timing. I truly am. But I need to go now." Amanda found her voice again, anger replacing shock. "So you're just going to throw a tantrum and leave? Real mature, Richard. What about Mom's birthday?" "Happy birthday, Mom," I said, placing the small wrapped package on the entry table. "I hope you like the bracelet." As I walked out the door, I heard Mom calling after me, and Amanda loudly declaring what an unbelievable jerk I was being. I got into my rental car, backed out of the driveway, and drove away from the house I grew up in, feeling a complex mix of emotions, sadness for what should have been anger at how I'd been treated, guilt for disrupting Mom's birthday, but overwhelmingly a sense of relief. I checked into an airport hotel, changed my flight to the earliest available the next morning, and spent the night processing what had just happened. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood up to Amanda and Mom without backing down, without accepting the guilt they tried to place on me. It felt terrifying and liberating all at once. As I fell asleep in the anonymous hotel room, I knew that things would never be the same with my family. For better or worse, a line had been crossed. The flight back to Austin the next morning was a blur. I sat by the window watching clouds pass beneath the plane, feeling strangely hollow yet lightened. By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, my phone showed 27 missed calls and 16 text messages from Mom with nothing from Amanda. The texts ranged from angry, "I can't believe you would embarrass me like this," to pleading, "Please call me back. We need to talk about this," to guilt-inducing, "I raised you better than this." I silenced my phone and placed it face down on my coffee table, needing space to process everything. I called my boss and took 2 personal days, explaining vaguely that I was dealing with a family situation. Then I simply existed in the quiet of my apartment, allowing myself to feel the full spectrum of emotions that had been building for years. The guilt came first, the programmed response to setting boundaries with my family. Was I being selfish? Had I overreacted? The voice in my head that sounded suspiciously like Mom questioned my decision to walk away. But as hours passed into days, different emotions emerged. Anger at years of mistreatment, sadness for the loving family relationship I'd never really had, and gradually a sense of peace that I had finally stood up for myself. My friend Marcus called on Tuesday evening, checking in after I'd missed our usual Monday night basketball game. "Everything okay, man? Not like you to no-show without a text." I found myself telling him everything. The years of family dynamics, Amanda's behavior, and finally the shoe incident. It was the first time I'd articulated the full pattern to anyone. "Sounds like you did what you had to do," Marcus said when I finished. "Family's important, but not at the cost of your self-respect." His simple validation meant more than he could know. Over the next few days, I shared abbreviated versions with other friends, each conversation helping me solidify my decision to take a break from family contact. I eventually texted Mom I need some time and space. "I'm safe and okay, but I won't be in contact for a while. Please respect this boundary." Her response was immediate. "This is very hurtful, Richard. We're family. We should be able to talk things through." I didn't reply. The first week of no contact was the hardest. I'd reach for my phone to share news or ask Mom a question before remembering our situation. I'd feel pangs of worry about how she was doing, or whether Amanda's latest crisis had been resolved. The ingrained sense of responsibility was difficult to shake. My second week without family contact coincided with a major project at work. I threw myself into coding, problem-solving, and collaborating with my team. My boss noticed the difference in my focus. "Whatever you did on those personal days worked," he commented. "You seem more present, more confident in your decisions." He wasn't wrong. Without the constant drain of family drama and emotional manipulation, I had more energy for my actual life. I started sleeping better. My apartment felt more like a sanctuary than just a place to crash between work and family crises. By the third week, I decided to seek professional help, processing my family dynamics. Finding a therapist was intimidating but necessary. Dr. Lisa Brennan specialized in family trauma and boundary setting. Our first session was mainly me sharing my history, but even that felt cathartic. "What you're describing sounds like a classic family system with rigid roles," she explained. "You were assigned the role of helper and fixer, while your sister took the role of the entitled one who needs fixing. These patterns don't change easily because they serve a purpose for the family, even if they're harmful to individuals." "So what do?" I asked. "You've already taken the first step by creating distance and setting a boundary. Now we work on maintaining that boundary without guilt and processing the complex emotions that come with changing family dynamics." Over the next several weeks, I attended therapy regularly, learning about concepts like emotional manipulation, enabling behavior, and the difference between healthy and unhealthy family systems. I began to understand that my feelings were valid, my reactions reasonable, and my need for respect legitimate. Work continued to go well. I received praise for my contributions to our latest product launch and was assigned to mentor a new developer on our team. Teaching someone else helped me recognize how much knowledge and skill I had developed, boosting my confidence further. My social life flourished without the constant interruptions of family emergencies. I joined a weekend hiking group, went to concerts with friends, and even started dating again, meeting Allison through a cooking class I'd signed up for on a whim. When Allison asked about my family after we'd been dating for a few weeks, I was able to explain the situation clearly, and without the emotional charge it would have carried before. We're not in contact right now. I needed to set some boundaries after years of unhealthy dynamics. It's complicated, but it was necessary. She nodded thoughtfully. I get it. My relationship with my older brother was pretty toxic for years. Sometimes distance is the kindest thing you can do for yourself and them. Her understanding reinforced what I was learning in therapy, that healthy relationships require mutual respect, clear boundaries, and reciprocity. What I had with Mom and Amanda lacked all three. As weeks turned to a month, then two, I experienced an unexpected gift piece. The constant background anxiety of waiting for the next family crisis call had dissipated. I was sleeping through the night, enjoying my food, and feeling present in my own life in a way I hadn't before. Dr. Brennan noted the change. You're carrying yourself differently, she observed during a session about 6 weeks after the incident. More upright, more grounded. I feel lighter, I admitted, like I've put down a weight I've been carrying so long I forgot it was there. That's what happens when we stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions and choices, she explained. It frees up energy for our own lives. That energy manifested in various ways. I started writing code for a side project I'd been thinking about for years. I repainted my apartment in colors I actually liked, rather than the neutral tones I'd chosen to avoid making decisions. I even adopted a cat from the local shelter, a commitment to caring for another being on my terms with mutual affection rather than obligation. The path wasn't always smooth. There were days I doubted my decision, moments when a song or memory would trigger sadness about the relationship with my family that I wished I had. But those moments became less frequent and less intense as time passed. What I didn't realize was that my period of peace and growth was about to be interrupted. The family patterns I had stepped away from weren't done with me yet. 7 weeks after I left Connecticut, my phone would light up with a flood of calls that would force me to reaffirm my boundaries in the most difficult way possible. The calls started on a Wednesday evening. I was cooking dinner with Allison when my phone began vibrating repeatedly on the counter. Mom's name flashed on the screen once, twice, then 3 times in succession. I silenced it each time, committed to maintaining my boundary of no contact. Everything okay? Allison asked, noticing my tension. Just my mom calling. She knows I need space, but she's persistent. The calls continued through dinner, eventually switching to voicemails. I tried to focus on our conversation, on the simple pleasure of sharing a meal with someone who respected me, but the constant notifications made it difficult. After Allison left, curiosity got the better of me. I checked my voicemail, preparing myself for the usual guilt trips or demands. The first few messages followed the expected pattern. Richard, this is your mother. Call me back. Richard, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. We need to talk. But the tone changed dramatically in the later messages. Richard, this is serious. Your sister is in trouble. Real trouble this time. Please call me back. Richard, I'm begging you. Amanda needs help. We need your help. The final message, left at 11:30 that night, caught me off guard with Mom's openly sobbing voice. Richard, please. I don't know what to do. Amanda's been accused of fraud, something about her social media promotions and taking money without delivering services. There are lawyers involved now. She might face charges. Please call me back. I've called 49 times now. Please. I sat on my couch, phone in hand, feeling the familiar pull of family obligation. This was exactly the type of crisis that would have sent me racing to the rescue before dropping everything to research legal options, possibly lending money I couldn't afford to lose, putting my life on hold to manage someone else's self-created disaster. But things were different now. I had perspective I lacked before, and the nature of Amanda's trouble didn't surprise me. Her social media presence had become increasingly focused on lifestyle brand promotions and partnerships over the past year. She presented herself as an influencer with connections to luxury brands, offering her followers access to exclusive products and experiences for a fee, of course. I remembered seeing posts where she promised luxury skincare packages, weekend getaways, and fashion consultations. Given Amanda's pattern of over-promising and under-delivering, it seemed inevitable that this would eventually catch up with her. I slept poorly that night, the old programming battling with my new boundaries. The next morning, I called Dr. Brennan and scheduled an emergency session for that afternoon. "You're at a crossroads," she said after I explained the situation. "This is exactly the type of crisis that would typically pull you back into old patterns." "Part of me feels like I should help," I admitted. "She is my sister, after all." "What would helping look like in this situation?" Dr. Brennan asked. "What specifically do you think your mother wants from you?" I considered the question. Money for legal fees, probably. Help navigating the legal system. Emotional support for both of them. Taking time off work to be there physically. "And at what cost to you?" "Financial strain. Potential impact on my job if I take unexpected time off. The emotional drain of being back in that environment. Likely little appreciation for whatever I do contribute." Dr. Brennan nodded. "Those are important considerations. But I want to ask you something else. What would actually be helpful for Amanda in the long run?" The question struck me. I'd been so conditioned to provide immediate relief that I rarely considered the long-term impact of always rescuing my sister. I guess facing the consequences of her actions might actually force her to make different choices going forward. That's an insightful observation. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do is allow people to experience the natural consequences of their behavior. It's how we learn and grow. I left the session with clarity about my response. That evening, I crafted a carefully worded text to Mom. "I've received your messages about Amanda's legal troubles. I'm sorry to hear she's facing this difficult situation. I will not be providing financial assistance or coming home to manage this crisis. The slave is busy building his own life. Amanda is an adult who needs to take responsibility for her own actions and decisions. If she needs legal representation, I suggest she contact the State Bar Association for referrals to attorneys who specialize in fraud cases." The response came almost immediately. "I can't believe you would abandon your family when we need you most. This is serious, Richard. Your sister could face criminal charges." I took a deep breath and replied, "I understand it's serious. That doesn't change my decision. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm choosing not to enable behavior that has led to this situation. I hope Amanda finds good legal representation and learns from this experience." "After everything we've done for you," Mom texted back, "this is how you repay us, by turning your back when we're in crisis." This was the guilt trip I expected, the one that would have worked on me before. But now I saw it for what it was, an attempt to manipulate me back into my assigned role. "Mom, I love you, but I need to be clear. I will not be involved in this situation. This is my final word on the subject. I wish you both the best in resolving it." I turned off my phone that night, allowing myself space from the barrage of messages I knew would follow. When I turned it back on the next morning, there were indeed more texts and voicemails, each more desperate than the last. Mom had moved from guilt to anger to bargaining, offering to start fresh and put the past behind us if I would just help with this one crisis. The conflicting emotions were intense. Guilt for not rushing to help, worry about what might happen to Amanda, anger that they only reached out when they needed something from me. But beneath all that was a steady certainty that I was making the right decision for everyone involved. Over breakfast, I composed one more message to Mom. "I've given this a lot of thought. I won't help in the way you're asking, but I can offer this, the name and number of a lawyer in Connecticut who specializes in fraud cases. No money, no coming home, just this referral. Let me know if you want it." There was no response that day, or the next. I continued with my life, working, seeing friends, developing my relationship with Allison, attending therapy. The silence from Connecticut was both a relief and a nagging concern. A week later, a text from Mom. "Send the lawyer's information." Just that, no pleasantries, no acknowledgement of my boundaries. I provided the contact details for an attorney. I'd researched someone with good reviews who specialized in cases like Amanda's. "Thank you," came the curt reply. It wasn't much, but it was a shift, Mom accepting help on my terms, rather than demanding what she wanted. A small step, perhaps, but significant in our family's history. As weeks passed, I received occasional brief updates from Mom. Amanda had secured legal representation, not the lawyer I suggested, but someone a family friend recommended. She was cooperating with the investigation. The situation was being handled. I maintained my distance while acknowledging the updates with simple responses. Thanks for letting me know. I hope it works out. Nothing that would open the door to being pulled back into the old dynamics. Dr. Brennan called this detached concern, caring about the outcome without taking responsibility for it. It was a new skill for me, one that allowed me to wish my family well without sacrificing my own well-being in the process. 3 months after Amanda's legal troubles began, I received a longer message from Mom. Amanda's case has been resolved. She's agreed to make restitution payments to the affected customers and will be on probation for 1 year. No jail time. She's moved in with me again temporarily while she figures out her next steps. I want you to know that this has been a wake-up call for both of us. I sat with those words for a long time. A wake-up call. It was what I had hoped for but hadn't dared expect. Whether it would lead to actual change remained to be seen, but it was a beginning. I'm glad to hear the case is resolved, I replied. I hope this fresh start brings positive changes for both of you. For the first time in our exchange, Mom's response wasn't about what she needed from me. I hope so too. And Richard, I've been thinking about what you said when you left, about respect. You deserved better than how we treated you. I'm sorry. Those simple words, I'm sorry, were something I'd never expected to hear from Mom. They weren't a complete acknowledgement of the years of dysfunction, but they were a start, a crack in the wall of denial that had surrounded our family dynamics for so long. Thank you for saying that, I replied. It means a lot. As the conversation ended, I felt something shifting, not just in my relationship with my family, but in my understanding of what true support looks like. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do for others is to let them face the consequences of their actions, to trust that they have the capacity to solve their own problems. It would be many more months before I would see Mom and Amanda again, and our relationship would never be the same as before. But maybe, just maybe, it could be better built on mutual respect rather than obligation and manipulation. 6 months passed before I seriously considered visiting Connecticut again. During that time, communication with Mom evolved into weekly text exchanges and occasional phone calls. The conversations remained superficial at first. Weather updates, basic life events, nothing too personal or potentially contentious. Amanda's legal situation had been fully resolved by then. She had completed 3 months of her probation, made initial restitution payments to the people she had defrauded, and was working a regular job at a local marketing firm, an entry-level position she would have considered beneath her. Before. According to Mom, the experience had changed Amanda. She's more humble now, Mom said during one of our calls, more aware of how her actions affect others. I wanted to believe this was true, but years of witnessing Amanda's temporary reforms, followed by returns to entitled behavior, made me cautious. Change, real change, doesn't happen overnight, or even over a few months. It requires consistent effort and genuine insight. My own life continued to flourish in the meantime. My side project had developed into a promising app that generated modest but growing revenue. Allison and I had moved in together, sharing a larger apartment with my cat Jasper and her dog Bailey. At work, I received a substantial promotion to lead developer, recognition of the focused effort I'd been able to give my career without constant family distractions. Dr. Brennan and I had reduced our sessions to once a month, focusing on maintaining boundaries and continuing personal growth rather than crisis management. During one session, she suggested that it might be time to consider a controlled reconnection with my family. You've done the work of establishing healthy boundaries, she said. You've processed much of the hurt and developed strategies for maintaining your autonomy. The question now is, what kind of relationship with your family, if any, do you want going forward? It was a profound question. Despite everything, I did want some form of relationship with Mom and even Amanda. They were my only immediate family, and there were good memories mixed with the difficult ones. But I wanted that relationship to be fundamentally different, based on mutual respect, rather than my subservience to their needs. After careful consideration and discussion with Allison, I decided to visit Connecticut for a weekend. I set clear parameters. I would stay in a hotel, not at Mom's house. I would have my own rental car, and I would schedule specific times for family interaction rather than being available around the clock. Mom seemed surprised by these conditions but accepted them without argument itself, a sign of change. We arranged for me to visit in April 9 months after the shoe incident that had catalyzed this transformation in our relationships. The flight to Connecticut felt different this time. Instead of dread, I felt cautious optimism mixed with the security of knowing I could leave at any time if boundaries were crossed. I had a return ticket, a hotel room, and a partner who supported my decision while being ready to provide emotional backup if needed. Mom met me at a restaurant for lunch the first day, neutral territory where we could ease into interaction. She looked older, somehow more subdued. Her designer outfit was less ostentatious than what she typically wore, and she seemed genuinely happy to see me. "You look well, Richard," she said after an initial awkward hug. "Happy? I am happy," I confirmed. "Work is good, my relationship is good, life is balanced." We navigated through small talk before Mom brought up the elephant in the room. "I owe you a proper apology," she said, setting down her fork. "Not just for what happened at my birthday, but for years of, well, not seeing you. Not valuing you the way I should have." The admission took me by surprise. "What brought this on?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Therapy," she admitted with a small smile. "After everything with Amanda's legal troubles, I started seeing someone. She's helped me see patterns I wasn't aware of before." We talked more openly during that lunch than we had in years, perhaps ever. Mom acknowledged how she had favored Amanda after Dad left, how she had enabled Amanda's worst tendencies while taking my reliability for granted. She didn't make excuses or try to minimize the hurt caused. She simply owned her part in our dysfunctional family system. "I can't change the past," she said as we finished our meal, "but I'd like to try to build something healthier moving forward, if you're willing." "I'd like that too," I said, and meant it. Meeting Amanda proved more challenging. We arranged to have dinner together, the three of us, at Mom's house the following evening. When I arrived, Amanda was already there helping in the kitchen, in a way I'd rarely seen before. Her greeting was stiff, clearly rehearsed. "Hi, Richard. Thanks for coming." No smirk, no cutting remark, just awkward politeness. Throughout dinner, I observed subtle but meaningful changes in Amanda's behavior. She asked questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. She talked about her job without complaints or grandiose claims. When Mom mentioned Amanda's continued restitution payments, Amanda didn't change the subject or make excuses. "It's going to take a long time to pay everyone back," she admitted, "but it's the right thing to do." After dinner, Amanda asked if we could talk privately. We moved to the back porch, sitting in the same chairs where we'd once shared ice cream cones as kids. "I need to apologize for how I've treated you," she began, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "The shoes thing was awful, but it wasn't just that. It was years of taking advantage of you, disrespecting you, treating you like you were less important than me." I listened without interrupting, noting that, for perhaps the first time in our adult lives, Amanda was speaking to me with genuine emotion rather than calculation. "The legal trouble was terrifying," she continued, "but maybe I needed that wake-up call. When you refused to swoop in and fix everything, at first I was furious, but eventually I realized you were right. I had to face the consequences of my own actions." "That couldn't have been easy," I acknowledged. "It wasn't, but it forced me to grow up in ways I should have years ago." She met my eyes directly. "I don't expect us to be best friends overnight, or maybe ever, but I'd like the chance to show you that I'm trying to be better." The conversation wasn't a miracle cure for years of dysfunction. There were still awkward moments, old habits that threatened to resurface, but there was also a genuine attempt at change on both sides. Before I left Connecticut, we established new parameters for our family relationship: regular but limited communication, respect for boundaries, no expectations of financial support or crisis management from me, acknowledgement of progress while remaining realistic about the work still needed. In the months that followed, these new patterns held more often than not. There were slips, of course, moments when Mom would fall into guilt-tripping or Amanda would make an entitled comment. But now I had the tools to address these behaviors directly rather than accommodating them, and surprisingly, they were often receptive to the feedback. The most profound change, however, wasn't in them but in me. I no longer defined myself by my role in the family, My worth wasn't tied to how useful I could be in solving others' problems. I had built a life centered on genuine connection, meaningful work, and mutual respect in all relationships. A year after the shoe incident, Allison and I visited Connecticut together. Introducing her to my family wasn't without anxiety, but it went better than I could have hoped. Mom made a sincere effort to get to know her without judgment or comparison. Amanda showed interest in Allison's work as a graphic designer without making the conversation about herself. Small steps, but significant ones. That visit solidified my understanding of what had changed. My family was learning to relate to me as I actually was, not as they needed me to be, and I was learning to love them without sacrificing myself in the process. Back in Austin, sitting on the balcony of our apartment, Allison asked me a question that made me reflect deeply. Do you regret throwing away the shoes, standing up to them like that? Not for a second, I replied without hesitation. It was messy and painful, but necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to disrupt patterns that aren't working. The journey from family doormat to respected individual hadn't been easy or straightforward. There had been moments of doubt, backsliding, and difficult emotions. But standing on the other side, I could see how essential it had been. True family isn't defined by blood ties or obligation. It's built on mutual respect, honesty, and the freedom to be authentically yourself. Sometimes creating that kind of family requires walking away from toxic patterns even when it hurts. Sometimes it means allowing people to face the consequences of their actions rather than rushing to rescue them. And sometimes, if you're fortunate, it means building something new and healthier from the ashes of what wasn't working. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with Mom and Amanda. We're taking it day by day, acknowledging progress, while remaining realistic about the work still ahead. But I do know that whatever happens, I'll face it as a whole person, not as someone defined by their needs or expectations. If you're struggling with toxic family dynamics, know that you deserve respect. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for everyone's growth. The path may be difficult, but the peace waiting on the other side is worth every challenging step. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? What was your breaking point? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life stories about finding strength through life's challenges. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes throwing something away, whether it's a pair of shoes or toxic expectations, is the first step towards something better.